greater connection, greater service, greater love. It's calling us to heal the brokenness within ourselves, in others, and in the world. It's calling us to live more deeply. It's calling us to beauty. It's calling us to laugh and dance and sing. It's calling us to live through life's pain and sorrow. It's calling us to live courageously and kindly, to speak our truth in love, and to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice. It's calling us into community. It's calling us into the greater life of all. Listen, can you hear it? The Spirit is calling. At this time, we have an opportunity to light our candles of community on the back table. You can light a candle for joy or concern, or simply to bring more light into our space. Seeger, and I love Peter, Paul, and Mary. My dad saw Pete Seeger at the University of Oklahoma campus when he was a student there, and one of the albums that we would listen to when I was a small child was by Peter, Paul, and Mary. And now one of my friends, Gene Finley, is the author of the biography of Noel Paul Stookey as well, so love those connections. Let's stand in body or spirit for our chalice lighting, our spoken affirmation, and the lighting of the peace candle. May we light this chalice this morning to remind us of the power and beauty of balance and contrast. It is darkness that can make the flame of a single candle so powerful, and light that deepens those shadows in turn. A chalice flame is the meeting point, the union of the refuge, safety, and incredible beauty of darkness, and the warmth, the assurance, and the joy of light. May this act of lighting our chalice this morning remind us that we are stronger together in all the complexities and the disagreements of relationship, because we are different and because we are one. Let us join together in the spoken affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and freedom, and to help one another. We light this peace candle to remind us of all the places in the world where there is no peace. Join me in the words now on the screen. Lead me from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead me from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead me from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Let's be seated. Our opening thought comes from Hannah Arendt from her book, The Origins of Totalitarianism. She writes, before mass leaders seized the power to fit reality to their lies, their propaganda is marked by its extreme contempt for facts as such. For in their opinion, fact depends entirely on the power of man who can fabricate it. Our next reading is from Masha Gessen from the New York Times Review of Books in November of 2016. Rule number 1, believe the autocrat. He means what he says. Whatever you find yourself thinking or hear others claiming that he is exaggerating, that is our innate tendency to reach for a rationalization. This will happen often. Humans seem to have evolved to practice denial when confronted publicly with the unacceptable. Let's enter into our time of meditation. Taking a time to center ourselves, sitting in a comfortable position, breathing in and out. In and out. We, you and I, are in between right now. in between what was and what will be, in between who we were and who we will become, in between letting go and embracing, in between saying hello and saying goodbye. In-betweenness, it's a thing. In-betweenness is a time of fullness, a time of anticipation, a time of hope, a time of worry, a time of sadness. In-betweenness is a time of waiting. Waiting for news, waiting for departure, waiting for arrival, waiting for death, waiting for life. In-betweenness is a time of transformation, a time of reflection, a time of action, a time of growing, a time of becoming. During this time of in-betweenness, of knowing and not knowing, let us enter into the silence together. Our next reading is from Anne Applebaum, Speaking Like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. She writes, if you connect your opponents with disease, illness, and poisoned blood, if you dehumanize them as insects and animals, if you speak of squashing them or cleansing them as if they were pests or bacteria, Then you can much more easily arrest them, deprive them of rights, exclude them, or even kill them. If they are parasites, they aren't human. If they are vermin, they don't get to enjoy freedom of speech or freedoms of any kind. And if you squash them, you won't be held accountable.
And we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
George Carlin once said there were 7 words that you can never say on television. And I'm going to guess that extends to a Unitarian Universalist congregation as well. Either way, I'm not going to take a chance on that. The F word I'm discussing today is not one of those 7 words. The F word, fascism, as defined by Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is, quote, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, that is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition, end quote. There are a number of other articles online and encyclopedias and in books, and Ann Applebaum, who I just read, does a lot of work on fascism as well. But those are some of the key characteristics of fascism. And for years, it has probably rightly been considered hyperbole to use the word fascism in reference to particular politicians or political movements within our society. But when politicians and their followers are using rhetoric that is identical to Hitler and Mussolini, calling their political opponents vermin and promising to imprison them and anyone else they deem the enemy within, pledging to forcibly deport millions of persons whom they call animals, who are poisoning the blood of America, then it is time to use the F word and to do all in our power to save what's left of our democratic republic. My parents are old enough to remember the horror of what fascism can do in the world. Fascism took my mom's uncle from this earth in 1945 as he fought German fascists in Italy. It was a devastating loss for the family. My mom was 6 when the war ended, and she remembers the VE Day celebration in Detroit and the tears of joy and sadness that were mixed together that day as her uncle was gone forever. My dad was 10 years old when the war ended. His brother was 12 years older than he was and had joined the Air Force to become a pilot. He was flying B-29s at the end of the war. He was scheduled to be deployed to be a part of the bombing of Japan when the war ended, and he was a part of the occupation of Japan. Both my parents remember clearly the loss and suffering caused by fascism in its different forms during World War II, as well as the sacrifice required to defeat it. It's critically important to remember that it is much easier to vote in fascism than it is to vote out fascism. Looking at history, we see that fascists are rarely removed through democratic processes, because when they come to power, they attempt to dismantle them. It is an appropriate response to be extremely alarmed over persons who want to lead us, who are talking like Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin. That is precisely the kind of thing over which one ought to become extremely alarmed. Don't let anyone convince us otherwise. I teach political philosophy and contemporary political theory. I've spent a significant amount of time studying fascism as an ideology and its historical manifestations. I am very aware of the need to reserve the label fascist for persons who are actually fascists. But what we are hearing from certain politicians today in our society and what they are promising to do is fascist to the core. In my opinion, if a person thinks it is too extreme to say that the country is in grave danger of being overcome by fascism, they either are not paying attention or they don't know what fascism is. Anyone who has read and learned anything about the history of autocracy and fascism in the world knows where the United States is right now, on the precipice of becoming a true hellscape for the most vulnerable people among us and a danger to the world. We cannot say that we did not know what was coming. But sadly, there are so many who just do not have a clue about the danger that we are facing. There's a disturbing trend among persons drawn to autocratic leaders to make the claim that the United States is not a democracy, but rather a constitutional republic. But in actuality, we are a democratic constitutional republic. We are not a direct democracy in that we don't normally directly vote for legislation, but we do elect our representatives through a democratic process. The fact that we are a democratic republic was never really seriously questioned until fascism started gaining traction within our society. Sadly, our for-profit system of journalism has failed us miserably during this critically dangerous time of our democratic republic. The normalization of abhorrent fascist rhetoric and fascist behavior by a large portion of the media is a recipe for the death of our democracy. Our education system has also failed to prepare us adequately for the fascist threat we are now facing. On average, young persons do not know very much about what fascism is and what the horrific consequences are if societies succumb to fascism. Growing historical illiteracy in the United States is a great threat to our democratic republic. And there are some in our democratic republic who are trying to keep us historically illiterate. Protecting public education and the autonomy of teachers is one of the most important long-term defenses a society has against fascism, which is precisely why fascists work so hard to attack public education and good teachers. History shows us that propagandizing the education of the youth is one of the most insidiously powerful tools of fascism. Controlling what the youth learned about history is a core strategy of fascism. I'm not saying I have my finger on the pulse of young people, but I do teach at the college level, and it is surprising to me how little is being taught in high school and how little is being learned even in college about what led up to World War II and how fascism took hold in parts of Europe. Most young people have a very sketchy understanding of these events, and thus it is difficult for many of them to understand just how precarious and dangerous our current situation is. As we stare the threat of fascism in the face, we must now remember that the most important rule for avoiding fascism is to believe it when a fascist tells us what they are going to do if they come to power. The dangers of underreacting to politicians who speak and act like fascists are exponentially greater than those of overreacting. When fascists say they will do things, whether women like it or not, believe them. When fascists say they are going to prioritize one religion over all others, believe them. When fascists tell us that they see immigrants and refugees as animals, as not human, as poisoning the blood of our country, and that they will forcibly deport millions of them as soon as they come to power, believe them. And we must remember that mass deportation is and always has been an act of horrific violence that inevitably leads to the deaths of large numbers of persons, of human beings. When fascists echo a Nazi slogan and say that, quote, America is for Americans and Americans only, end quote, believe them. When fascists tell us that they view their political opponents as vermin and the enemy within, and that the military or National Guard ought to be used to handle them, believe them. And we must remember that some of the first persons who were sent to concentration camps in 1934 in Germany were the political opponents of Hitler and the Nazi regime. When fascists publicly imagine and talk about a political opponent having, quote, 9 barrels shooting at her, end quote, and having, quote, guns trained on her face, we must believe that they are willing to use violence to gain, maintain, and expand their political power. When fascists say they wish they had Hitler's generals, believe them. When fascists say they will be a dictator on the first day they come to power, believe them. When fascists tell their supporters that they only have to vote this time and that they won't even have to vote in the next election because things will be fixed by then, believe them. Globally, fascism is doing what it always does. It's going to the well of ultra-nationalist and xenophobic anti-immigrant sentiment. And it always draws deeply from this well to encourage folks to drink from the fear and hatred that keeps fascism alive. And as fascists become more desperate in the days ahead, they will draw even more deeply from this well of hate and fear. And we cannot underestimate the power of this evil force within the world. In countries where fascism prevailed, many people thought their institutions would protect them until they didn't. Fascism is difficult to eradicate because it so effectively plays on one of the most powerful forces in the world, fear. It transforms that fear into hate, and once it brings people to the point of hatred, it becomes what it always becomes, one of the deadliest forces in the history of humanity. Persons who value democracy and freedom must resist fascism in all of its forms. We simply cannot be for democracy without also being against autocracy and fascism. May we all be able to cultivate the compassion and the courage that is needed for the work ahead, for the sake of all that is good, and for the sake of all that is just. At this time, we have an opportunity for giving. You may bring your gifts to the table, and you may also give online. Let us stand in body or spirit for our closing words and extinguishing the chalice. Our parting thought comes from words spoken by Charlie Chaplin in the movie The Great Dictator. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. Let us join in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish these flames, but not the light of truth, the warmth of humanity, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
You might want to sit or stay for the first part of the post.
Put it there, boy, and we'll show these fascists what a couple of hillbillies can do. Well, I'm going to tell you, fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
All you fascists bound to lose.
I said,
All you fascists bound to lose.
yes, sir.
All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
There's people of every nation marching side by side, marching across the fields where 1 million fascists died. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
All you fascists bound to lose.
Yes, sir.
All you fascists bound to lose.
I said,
All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
I said,
All you fascists bound to lose.
yes, sir.
All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
Put it there, boy, and we'll show these fascists what a couple of hillbillies can do. Well, I'm going to tell you, fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
All you fascists bound to lose.
I said,
All you fascists bound to lose.
yes, sir.